to kick things off, so we've done a video with you, Adam, before, and if you guys haven't seen that, it was perceived super well, and obviously it's topical. People are concerned with insurance in Florida. It's a big topic right now, with all the sort of crazy stuff that's going on. So, like, first of all, to start, what do you guys do at Erb Young that like
Yeah.
I don't know, yeah, to
No,
kick
no.
that off.
So it's very simple. Like we're an independent insurance agency. It's a very popular model in Florida. It's everywhere. Really popular model in Florida because like an independent insurance agency is kind of like a broker of insurance, right? So we're like your intermediary to the companies, to the carriers. So Progressive, Allstate, these are companies, these are carriers, and these companies will use independent agencies. They'll give out appointments to independent agencies to write their product. So really the clients work with the agency on everything except a claim, you know. So we write the insurance, we service the policies, we can remarket and shop those policies for people. And the way we meet most of our clients is through the home closing process. That's just been our model for 14 years that we've been around. So we're familiar with the home closing, you know, process and that industry, maybe more than some other agencies out there, because that's what a lane we've chosen to occupy. But we also do all types of insurance. So like we write everything but health insurance on the personal side. So anything for your household, boat, car, stuff like that. We have products for it, multiple products, and we write it.
Like, one of the biggest, I feel like, services that is needed that you guys add value to is like, because a lot of people's insurance goes up. So you're the perfect person to, not even before you buy a house, but even if you have a house, it's like they shop all the insurance companies to figure out the best policy for you. And then also you're that point of contact. So you develop a relationship with the client. So you're not dealing with a new person constantly. Is that?
Yeah, I tell people like one phone call away, right? Like, does it sound convenient to have like all of your insurance one phone call away?
Mm-hmm.
And, think of it like more like an agency bundle, which like probably 90 to 95% of people are doing in Florida now because like, we're still in a hard market. So when you're in a hard market, it's hard to like, the bundle with one company maybe isn't really as competitive anymore, right? So like a lot of people are doing an agency bundle, but that's convenient too, right? Because yeah, it's just one phone call away for folks. Just being able to pick up a phone and like talk to somebody and
Right.
just feel like at least you're heard and it was attended to. Like even that is like the smallest thing that like an agency
It's
like
not a
us can
small
do
thing
right
to
now.
our age group. We like service and actually getting a person on a phone versus all the robo.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And I don't want to, look,
bitching in our age
we love tech. Like we're a tech forward agency, but there are just some things that, a phone call makes all the difference in the world.
Florida's obviously, the insurance has gone crazy.
a hot spot, so to speak.
Yeah, probably the hardest market in the country still.
Yeah.
Right
So
now.
what have you kind of seen unfold? And then, I mean, it's 2025. We did this video maybe a couple years
I
ago.
think it might have been a couple of years ago. Yeah.
So, like, kind of, what did you see when all of this started to change, when the insurance started to change? What were those triggers? And then what have you seen sort of evolve in the last couple of years?
Yeah, so I think the big one was like I think the last time we talked, we were either on the front end or we hadn't started. There were some like law changes that happened in Florida.
That was
Yeah,
that like
it was
right at that
just
time.
going on.
Yeah, so that was like it was very early, and while there was like some optimism about like what that would do, we just didn't really have a lot of sample size from the other side yet. So
Yeah.
like now we're probably like 2 years into that, and we've seen some of the impact. I think that it has benefited the industry. One of the biggest impacts has been like there are more options available. I think prices are still higher than people would like, but whenever there's more options, now you have a chance for competition. Now, two massive storms hit last year. That's tough. That's tough on the industry. But I will say, I think what maybe people don't realize about those hurricanes in particular and the damage from those hurricanes was a lot of that was flood damage. And flood damage is on its own like policy. Flood damage is different than a homeowner's policy. So like a lot of those claims, hopefully don't have as much of an impact on the homeowner's insurance market as like maybe people think, they will.
Oh, interesting.
We'll see. We'll see. But I mean, now look, there was some sensational stories that came out like right after the storms of like, oh, these claims are being denied, or like Citizens Estate, the state's carrier of last resort is denying these claims. what they were denying was flood claims. Like Citizens doesn't have a flood product. It doesn't have a flood endorsement. So if somebody had flood damage, they would call the homeowners insurance, probably not thinking twice about it. And Citizens would just tell them right away, like, hey, that what you're describing is flood damage. That is not on your homeowner's policy. So it looks like a denied claim, but it's really them like filtering that person back to where they need to go. And I mean, hopefully they had the flood policy. And if you didn't, you know, I think a lot of people are probably submitting for FEMA grants and stuff, which have their own, you know, downsides. But yeah, I guess big picture, the hope is that while that will have an impact, maybe it's not as much of an impact, just because a lot of that was storm surging on the coast. And, you know, I think it's a big brunt of what the damage was.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just a real quick, because I'm going to interject a little real estate. So the Florida Real Estate Commission added a form into your documents when you're buying something that specifically asks if that property had ever had any flood damage that had those kinds of claims.
Right. Yeah.
So you got a little extra protection when you're buying something to know.
Yeah. If a homeowner has a flood policy, there's a chance that that policy is transferable to a buyer in a transaction. It's the only type of policy that's like transferable. Like a homeowner's policy is not transferable.
Right.
Now, you can't just take the seller's homeowner's insurance and then take all that
Let's
policy.
realize that.
So there's a chance that, like, you know, if you're asking the right questions on the front end, like, does this homeowner even have a flood policy? And if the answer is yes, you get a copy of that policy, you try to get it in front of the agent that's helping the buyer. Maybe they can check the marketplace and see if that policy can just be assumed. And it might be a drastically different rate that essentially that house is now being grandfathered into. Doesn't always work, but if you never ask, you never know. And once that policy stops, it stops forever. Now it's on the new rating system, right?
Wow.
So these are, you know, that is one type of question.
Great to know.
That's going to become like very, very valuable, I think, in home closings, you know, coming up here over the next year, especially.
Yeah, here in the center of the state, we don't have a ton of flood property, you know, where a lot of our properties are in the X, which is no flood zone.
Low risk.
But still, there's lakes everywhere, and that's good to
I joke, and I'm an insurance agent, so of course I'll be the risk averse voice on a lot of these calls with clients. But it's like, I just tell them, look, we're a big flat state surrounded by water. Yeah, just because something's never happened doesn't mean never will, I guess. And you know, that's the risk averse side, right? Like as an insurance agent, that's what insurance is for. It's for like that thing you hope like never happens. But if it does happen, you're probably gonna be glad you have this thing. And, you know, for Florida, flood is one of those things that, like, if you're in an X zone, it's not terribly expensive. It might be $30 to $50 a month to do a flood policy for your house. And again, it's just one of those things, like, you'll be glad you have it.
Well, the beauty of using a service of a professional that knows that kind of thing is you can ask. When you see the particular property that you're buying and where it's located, then you can ask somebody because you have the access to all those maps and that kind of thing.
Totally.
Can we like briefly lay the groundwork of sort of what happened to the insurance prior to?
You think like kind of like what created maybe
like
market?
Because initially like there was companies leaving that created a huge stir. Like all these companies left, right? So can we sort of like, if you don't mind, just doing like a brief description of what happened leading up? Why are we in this situation in the first place? And then what were those laws specifically that at the time were like, this should make a difference, but we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah.
So what were those laws, and then what sort of happened leading up to that?
Yeah. So I tell people ask on the phone all the time. I tell them like it was a complex problem, and it requires a complex solution. Like it wasn't any one thing. It was like a couple of things over a long period of time. And candidly, I could see both sides of it. But like the long and short of it is, Florida. I think it was right around like 2020. They did just an analysis. Florida was accounting for over 70% of the entire country's property insurance lawsuits. So out of the whole country and all of the households in the country that have property insurance and submit claims and fight with their insurance companies, 70% of the claims lawsuits were happening in Florida.
Wow.
Out of all the state, or more, a little more than 70%. That's a staggering, you know, thing, right? These carriers are companies. Like they are not for profit companies. They are for profit companies. And if it's not profitable, they stop. Or they have to stop. So anyways, so the lawsuits, the claims lawsuits, it was just becoming very easy to do it, I think, in Florida. Like, you know, not only were they submitting the claims, like they were winning oftentimes. And, you know, sometimes you're able to like go to judge and ask for a multiplier of your fee because it's insurance, and you go to a judge and you're like, hey, this is really complex, so I think like our normal fee is this, but I think we should have like maybe 3 or 4 times that amount, and then the judge is going to award that, and now the insurance company's on the hook for that client's attorney's fees. They called it one-way attorney's fees, where if an insurance company, not really if an insurance company lost, if an insurance company, like basically if the plaintiff side could prove that the insurance company was $1 off of what that person was owed, now they've lost. They have to pay, for the damage. They have to pay for both attorney's fees on both sides. So now really, it's really just the cost of a claim, right? So if you're an insurance company, you're evaluating risk. You're going to take on claims, but you're just trying to evaluate how much is that going to cost and how much premium do we have to charge on the front end. And this just like the third party getting involved in almost every claim, felt like for a while there, was just inflating like the cost of a claim. Like in that same study, it was something like 13 billion with a B dollars were being paid by insurance companies over a 10-year period. $13 billion paid out by insurance companies over a 10-year period. 8% of that was to fix homes. Almost, I think it was, again, almost like 70% of that was attorney's fees on both sides. So like the insurance company's attorneys, and look, I get it, like this exists for a reason. Insurance companies are not blameless in this. They have pushed people on claims when maybe they shouldn't have. They have tried to like not pay, I'm not saying they're perfect, like, because they're not. Like there's a reason that this became a thing. It just kind of became gamified a little bit in Florida, where it was like so easy to just go make a living on suing insurance companies. And who pays for that at the end of the day? If you're driving on the highway and you see, I got $100 million, where's that coming from? It's coming from premiums. Like that is like, it's what we pay for our coverage. Like that's where they get their money from. So like, again, like nobody's blameless. I'm not coming after attorneys, because I think a lot of times attorneys have stepped into a claims process and really helped somebody out. That person had no other way. It was that one person versus a massive company.
Of course.
They had no one to hear them out sometimes. And that attorney like got something done or moved the needle. But it just got to a point in Florida where it was not happening like that all the time anymore.
So the laws changed that.
Yeah. So one of the things they addressed in the law was massive. So like the law change was massive, and there were a lot of things that happened, and some of it ironically put a new strain on insurance companies and like writing business and underwriting. But I'm not going to get into that, because like at the end of the day, your agent's going to be able to your agent's always going to navigate that for you and let you know what the process is like. The process changes, like, getting a policy, but that's more for us to know. And I don't think anyone needs to distract themselves with that, like the side that made it harder for us. So they got rid of the one-way attorney's fees, which was like nuts. Like I didn't really think that was going to happen. And it did. They changed, what was called assignment of benefits, and like how that could be done. And assignment of benefits was like, somebody knocks on your door, they're a contractor. Let's just say a roofer. Like, for example, they knock on your door. They're like, oh, free roof inspection. I'll just let me take a look. And then they're kind of becoming your advisor in the situation. Like, hey, there's damage on this roof. Like, do you have an insurance policy? You can go to your insurance company and, they might replace this for free. And assignment of benefits was like, essentially, maybe that contractor would have the homeowner sign an assignment of benefits. And that assignment of benefits is giving now the roofer the ability to submit a claim on their behalf and control the claims process on their behalf. So now the homeowner, it was happening a lot. It was happening a lot, because you can imagine, like, if you're...
So that's no longer happening?
So it's much, much harder to do, and it's almost like going away at this point.
Yeah.
They made it like a faster period of like, if you're going to fight a claim, you have to notify the company earlier. So they maybe threw up some guardrails to just make it a little harder to sue the insurance company, like processing wise, on like a law office or something like that. Laws in Florida start on July 1st, oftentimes. So those laws were basically announced as these pass, but they don't take effect for like 6 more months. So in that 6 months, just a mountain of lawsuits like came pouring in, right? Yeah. It's like, hey, your last chance to like get this in. So that happened. The carriers adjusted right away. They had to raise premium. Like they were dealing, they had to sift through all of that noise, and they're still doing that. But now we're kind of getting to the point where this stuff is like starting to take effect. Now we're seeing rates decrease. We're seeing underwriting guidelines change, where they're taking like older roofs again. So they're not like forcing people to replace roofs as much. Like it's kind of happening, but again, like prices are high, so nobody feels it yet. But it is headed in that direction, which is
that explains a lot, because really we've seen it. It's like, oh, you can get insurance on a 10-year. Where where a year ago it seemed like everybody halted whatever it was.
Yeah,
that's
That's awesome.
Good news, though.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. So it's like,
bringing back the
yeah, and you take two steps forward and one back sometimes, right? Stuff happens like hurricane season, right? Like that was hard. Some carriers that maybe open back up, shut down again, like real quick. But like the whole ship is moving, I think, in a direction we want it to move, like as homeowners. So that's nice. Will we be, less than the hardest market next year? I doubt it. California's gone through a lot, so like maybe California takes that spot, and it's been under horrible circumstances for them. But yeah, it's just the model. It's really tough in Florida, and like I said, complex problem. There's a complex solution to get out of it, right? It's not like you snap your fingers and you fix everything.
We pay a little bit for our palm trees and
A little bit, yeah. We don't have the state income tax, so that's nice.
well, that's really nice.
Find solace in that for a little while.
Also have homestead exemption.
Do you have off the top of your head like where Florida stands in terms of insurance costs compared to other
It's still the
states?
highest, yeah.
It's the
highest average, yeah. The coast carries a lot of that. I think if you were to look it up, it'd probably be over $10,000 as an average premium for Florida. But again, the coast probably carries the brunt of that. Central Florida, average, I mean, it's probably closer to like 2,000 to 5,000, I think, per year is what it is generally here.
Do you have any specific stories of clients you've worked with without giving up like too much personal information that are like you saw like a crazy amount of savings by literally just reaching out to like again, I think we already talked about this, but we have someone
Who's moving because of the costs? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I was talking. So they had their insurance company left, and they just pawned them off to somebody, and their insurance
They were probably with with farmers, and they probably got transitioned to Slide. That happened a ton.
And then
then they shopped around. They got a basically back to where they were.
Yeah. Which, like, I will say, like, kudos to Slide. Like, because Slide is doing what they're doing with the farmers policies, yes, those options are oftentimes more expensive. Farmers was like really a substandard rate. Like, farmers, what they were charging people was so far below the rest of the market. It's probably no question why they like stopped working in Florida. But it's a hard conversation because for those farmers clients, and maybe I'm assuming because I guess we don't really know, but let's just assume it was like a farmer's client. They had such a big jump back to the rest of the marketplace, price-wise. And it like that sucks. It feels like you're just getting stabbed in the heart because you're like, what the heck? I didn't even do anything. They're leaving. Like, what I do? What they didn't understand was like what they were being charged by. Like, honestly, what they saved. Like, this is what I would tell people sometimes on the phone. What you saved the last couple of years is helping you so much right now. Like, so, like, honestly, it's a good, if you wanted to save money, you did it. Like, you saved so much money over the last couple of years being with farmers, but now we're just going to get you back on the private marketplace. You're back in the swimming pool with the rest of us.
So that gives me a question because I know people think, well, how do you get paid? But these insurance companies pay you guys to get there.
The insurance company has that like percentage commission that they pay the agency. So like nobody's like ever paying us out of pocket.
Yeah.
It's our payment comes from the insurance company for writing their product. And then when the product renews,
as a business, put that into their business model, paying commissions.
Yeah. The funny thing about Florida is the other thing that's happened over the last couple of years that no one talks about. And I understand why. Who would care other than us, right? Like as agents. But as prices have gone up, commissions have gone down. Like carriers have lowered the commission percentages almost across the board, and some have done it like repeatedly year after year. So out of all that premium, it's not like it's going like right in our pocket. Like as an agency, Brett, one of our co-founders, said recently, like in a different interview, he's like last fiscal year, we were on pace to increase our households under management by 50%, which is great. Like that's what we want to do as an agency, taking some market share. We were essentially going to increase our book of business, our households by 50%, but we were only going to increase our revenue by 30%. Like the ratio has changed dramatically, right? And then as agents,
the insurance companies are trying to keep more of their money in their pocket.
They have to. They have to, or they may not be around tomorrow sometimes, right? So like they have, a balance sheet that they have to hit too. So they're cutting costs. And one of the costs they're cutting essentially is what they're going to pay the agencies to write the product. So that has
for sticking with the business.
Well, I mean, look, I'm not a saint. Like, we still get paid. It's still a great business model, right? Like, I guess like as a realtor, you get paid when that person opens the door for the first time. But as agents, there's an opportunity. If you do right by these people, you'll get paid every year they open that door, right? So like, I also tell people this, like, I don't make money writing that one policy for you, like at closing. Like, we make money by keeping you forever. and we have to earn that business year after year. Like or you go somewhere else, right? Like, so,
Yeah.
that's the model for us. I mean, we get paid, but I tell people, I want to earn your business every year. I want to earn your business because that's the expectation. That's how it should be.
And we don't do that by sitting back and doing nothing.
No,
So
no.
we work hard to stay in front.
So yes, hopefully you find some solace in the fact that we do work hard, and we do it repeatedly. We don't just do it when we write that one policy.
And our specific niches are 55 plus. A lot of us are retired, living on a certain amount of money. So saving $600 a year can be a huge,
That make a big difference. Budget, steady come. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I have those conversations. Yeah, I get it. Now, look, you're not off the hook. I'm going to talk to you about coverages. You're going to know if we're changing something and it's like not my recommendation, you're going to know. Like I'm not just going to do it for savings all the time, but like we're going to have the conversation. Like, what are your priorities? Can we match them? Can we do it and protect you and the agency? Like we're going to have that conversation. It's just, I know it starts at price. That's where every conversation starts, but like we're going to talk to you about like cover because we want to protect you. Like we know where this ends up sometimes in claims, but,
and everybody knows the difference just to example of a house, a cheaper house doesn't mean it's a better house.
Right.
Sometimes that's not the better house because you're going to have to put all kinds of stuff in.
That's right. Yeah.
So and I'm sure you work with all sorts of people, but is your ideal client someone that's like thinking about coming to Florida or moving and then talking to you prior to buying a house? Or is it someone that's already got a house and
that's a great question.
Already has an insurance policy?
That's a great question.
You're kind of restructuring.
Splitting hairs. I would probably say the former is ideal because it's nice to be like, it's nice to have that introduction at that time because like you can really, entrench yourself as like an advisor with that person. They're just looking for guidance. You're not really taking business away from somebody else, right? Like you're not trying to really talk them out of anything. You're just, you're guiding at that point. So yeah, like I'd say the person moving from out of state, it's great to get those people on the phone because it's just nice. It's nice to be able to set expectations and when you have none and or maybe even when you have some, it's like if you're outside of Florida, you're probably just reading news clippings. So like, sometimes maybe you're just like horrified. So like it's nice to talk to somebody that like actually is down here, like knows the market and has been down here. So yeah, I probably get more excited about those conversations than the homeowner shopping because their price got too high and maybe their agent didn't pick up the phone. But I mean, it is a close second. I love talking to those people too because you just learn so much about people's priorities and like, what have you done up till now? And, even you may be shocked. Like some of those people probably didn't know what was out there for them. It's like, insurance was one of those things and still is in some states where you can kind of set it and forget it. And I hope we get back there as a state one day.
If I'm purchasing a home, or I know I'm moving down to Florida, like at what point am I calling you guys? Do I have
never too early.
Houses that I'm looking at?
What I joke it's never too early. It actually can be sometimes. I think there was a client that reached out literally because of the YouTube video last time. He was so far out for buying a house and he was looking in like multiple states. At that point, I was like, I like you, man. Like, I love talking to you, and I'm happy to have these conversations. But candidly, like, I'm far too busy to be like talking to you about like what ifs at this stage. Now, if you're looking in Florida and you're between a couple of properties, no problem. Like, when you could absolutely reach out at that point. Even you're not even under contract yet. If you just want to know, it's easy to run a quote through. But like I'd say if you're like looking at like 5 houses, and that's probably too early. If you're under contract, I'd say that same day is probably like not too early to reach out and start.
So really, once you find a house or a couple houses that you're trying to...
Yeah. A couple houses is the overly cautious person. I think like really, truly, if you're under contract on it, like your contract's been accepted, that same day is like you should start reaching out and talking about insurance. It might feel early, but it's not. Even if that closing's 2 months out, like you might as well start getting an idea.
When let's say you have, for example, a house that maybe is like not in an X flood zone or something. I mean, is it, and I'm like, I really like this house, but I also have this other house I'm looking at.
But it's an 8
I want to know
flood zone. This one's
I want to know how much more it costs for me. Like that's probably a good.
That's a great, great idea and a great time. Yeah, because like what you're describing is like at that point somebody might be like financially one of these might make more sense than the other. But I'll tell you if like something's not insurable, right? Like if you're if we get an inspection back and the roof is damaged or the roof is like really really old. I may tell that person, hey, the insurability of this property this might be an issue next year or that year, right? Like I can't tell you what the price is going to be, but I do know that if you can go to more carriers, you have a better chance of managing price than if you can only go to a few because of some feature of the house. So like I do have that conversation, you know.
Well, also, and just a quick point on that. So welcome to a buyer's market. If a house is uninsurable because of roof, you go, hey, replace the roof before I buy this thing. We're back to being able to negotiate, which is fantastic.
Yeah, we are, yeah.
So if I'm already a homeowner and I just want to know if I can save some money or get a better policy, what does that look like for you guys?
I think, I think pick up the phone, right? I think that person reaches out, be very open to sharing information. Like I think some people feel very guarded going in. And you know, they just, that rapport hasn't been built yet with it. You know, maybe you're referred by somebody that they trust and maybe that brings down the wall a little bit, but I know it can be like scary to kind of reach it. It's like, it feels like reaching out to a car mechanic sometimes, right? Cause you don't know about cars. So you're just like, you're worried you're being ripped off all the time. And they're, you know, a guard could be up. And what I mean specifically is like, if somebody's a homeowner or they're reaching out about their auto insurance, the first question I'm going to ask is, okay, do you have a copy of your declarations page? Like, can you send me a copy of that? And it's to help both of us. But like, I think on the other side, it can sometimes feel like, well, I don't want this guy like knowing what I'm paying because he's just going to give me something that's more, he's not going to give me the least expensive option then, right? Like he's not going to give me what I want if he knows everything about it.
But you got to compare apples to apples.
But there's so many rating factors involved. Like how can I advise you if I don't know what you currently carry? Number one, coverage wise, like I quote basic. I do not quote with a lot of bells and whistles. So I may put something in front of you that looks like really competitive, but it might be half of the coverage you currently carry.
Right.
And I would want you to know that. I'm not saying I would never write that for you, but in my own good conscience, I would want to at least tell you, what do you have? What does it mean? And what does this mean? And how is this going to be different if the house burns down tomorrow, right? So like, I want to advise you. Also, I need to know that it's insured. I've had people reach out and they're like, yeah, my insurance is going to end on March 1st. I quote the policy, put the proposal together. I'm like, okay, here we go. We're going to go this direction. Give me this so I could send the proof of prior coverage to the company. I get it. It canceled in December. I'm back to square one, right? That policy. So like time wise, for both of us, you know, like being sensitive of both of our time, let's get all this stuff right away so we can start going to the right place immediately instead of doing this like cat and mouse dance of like, here's what I think you've got. Here's what might be eligible. Let's find out right now what's eligible.
So when there's a claim, and this is from a personal standpoint, we ended up using an adjuster that helped us get a little bit more money out of the insurance company. They got a 10% of whatever they increased for us. I thought that was a brilliant move. How do you guys feel about adjusters?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there's different types, right? Like I think what you're describing is a public adjuster, right? Like it's like somebody that represents the policy holder.
Yeah.
And then the carriers have their own adjusters. That's really where claims start. Is like the carrier has an adjuster, and they follow like a certain like code of ethics as well, right? And they're really they're on behalf of the insurance company, but they're supposed to be representing everybody, right? Like those adjusters too. The public adjuster became really popular in Florida, with the rest of, you know, all of what we described. As an agent, like I'm so biased, like as an agent, like I prefer it didn't happen. It is like public adjusters are also considered like a third party getting involved in a claim. And really like Citizens shared a statistic last year. Citizens is the state of Florida's insurance carrier of last resort. They're also the largest insurer in Florida right now, meaning they have more households under management than any other company right now in Florida. So they, you know, their data is like a lot of households. So last year they shared that like their average cost of a claim without a third party was like around $10,000. The average cost of a claim with a third party involved was around like $40,000. So like maybe on average, 4 times the cost of a claim when you get a third party involved. And is all of that going to the homeowner? No, you know, like, at the end of the day, like, you know, an attorney or a public adjuster, like they're going to take a percentage of like whatever the payout is. Right. So, but again, like there's good public adjusters out there. I know a lot of them. So it's like, it's just hard because who do you trust, you know, in this, and they're there for a reason too. Like it is nice to have somebody in your corner. It is nice to have somebody take the weight of like talking to the insurance company. Your time's worth something. Like it's nice to have somebody like that knows the landscape navigate it for you, right? Like almost just like I do with writing policies. So I'm not like totally, I'm not really against it. It's just, it is a third party. And I think what I wish maybe more people would do is like try to go through the claims process without it, just to see how you go or how far you get. Like, for example, something I know as an agent is like on my car insurance. Even if I'm in a not at fault accident, if I call my insurance company first, I am submitting a claim with them. Eventually they'll subrogate and get the money from the party responsible's insurance company. So they will get the money refunded to them, but they're going to spend time processing that claim. So there is a cost to my insurance company if I'm not at fault to processing the claim on their side. What's going to happen is I'm going to have the thing fixed faster because my insurance company is working on it. But more than likely, my insurance premium is going to go up, and my claims history is now increasing, right? And your claims history is part of your rating. A lot of people don't even realize you can go through a claim without an attorney at this point in Florida. You know, like that's kind of where they think you have to have representation, and you don't. Mm-hmm. And even the state of Florida has resources available. If you feel like you're being taken advantage of, the state of Florida has like honorable people, because they're really just doing the Lord's work. It is a thankless job, but they are positioned to push these insurance companies to do right by Florida homeowners. Like that is a department that has existed for decades in Florida. It's just nobody use it because long story short, I think it's because people don't want to spend the extra time, right? It's like, I guess I wish more people were willing to spend a little extra time to let this play out before immediately assuming that they're being taken advantage of. Because like one of the things I think's happened in Florida is that nobody trusts anybody anymore. Like the carriers don't trust their clients and the clients don't trust their carriers. Like we're this just cloud of mistrust. And anytime that's happening,
I'd blame the media because
well, there's that too. I mean, it's easy to cover too, right? When you submit a claim and it goes perfectly, that's what you expect. You're like, well, yeah, I paid this money and you know, that's how it should go. It's when the claim gets denied because of something in your contract or something your agent didn't tell you was not covered, or like when the claim gets denied, now you're furious and you're going to remember that so much more, that emotion so much more. And you're going to want to go rate your insurance company online. Like you're going to be so much more motivated to like tell people about that than you are if they covered it perfectly, because that's what you expect.
That's across the board, isn't it?
Yeah,
everybody's bad news travels, and everybody. But I'm telling you, in just my gut estimation, we have so many happy homeowners, and I don't hear a lot of people having to move back somewhere because of insurance costs.
Yeah, 2022 was like, that was probably the hardest market this state's ever been in, and we're like crawling out the other side of that.
Yeah,
and it is different, and it is nice because people can start to afford, you know, this stuff again.
It is what it is, and we always tell our folks, do the math, know what your budgets are, and you know, we'll try and get you into the best house, you know, those costs that you can then afford to kick up your
the truth about Florida home insurance in 2025.
Yeah,
that's the title.
I mean, there it is.
Yeah. Well, that was fantastic. How so? If people are homeowners or they're looking at homes and they want to reach out to you to get some more information, where do they find you at?
Yeah, urbanyoung.com. All our information's on there. You can actually submit quote requests through there. If you want me specifically, you could always call and ask. And then my email is just my first name, Adam@urbanyoung.com.
Cool. Yeah, Adam's fantastic, and we got to meet a lot of the team too. So if you do call and just, I'm sure going to be super happy with a lot of.
Yeah, it could be. It can literally be anyone that picks up the phone. They're all pretty great.
Good culture here.